All right, so this is part two of the real estate class that you were unable to do in person. And so we decided, hey, let's do it online. And then these classes will be our prerequisite for when we can be in a same space together, right? And then you can kind of
Exactly.
walk us through all that. So what we did in part one is you really showed us a shoot through the house, how you walk through, how you photographed. We talked a little bit about your gear, how you might set up some of your gear. And at the very end, we got a little bit into playing with images and how you might edit them. And that was very short. We couldn't go very fast. So today, what we're really going to do is we're going to talk a lot about, the file system, image processing, sky replacements, and some of the business aspects of like insurance. Because David and I were talking before we started recording that, you got to think about having insurance when you go into somebody's home and how you're going to do that. Um, and we also have two images that we're going to critique. Now, if anybody has an image that they would like us to critique tonight and talk about, you can email that to me at troy@spicyjello.com or troy@IEPPV.com, whichever one you have, and send that over to me, and we will grab that and we'll bring it up and we'll talk about it. We'll do that at the end. So in case anybody has images that they added, we'll get to them at the very end so everybody has time. So. And if you had not seen part one of the recording, it is on IEPPV's YouTube channel. So part one is sitting right there, so you can go grab that. And those will probably go out in the emails in the future with both of those links in there. So, and what else do I have? Oh, before I forget, next week I'm going to bring in Karen Nakamura, and she's going to be talking about her fine art compositing, what she does with her flowers and butterflies. And she's going to be talking about how she grows butterflies and how she photographs them and composites them. And she's also going to be an instructor at F64 Live this year. So she's going to give a little teaser into what it is that she's going to be teaching there as well all day. And you start talking about butterflies, Karen gets excited. So it's pretty cool. So, all right. Well, that's enough like the official announcements. David, let's talk about file management, right?
Well, before we get into this, let's
Okay.
let's I want to, because we actually had drones on our thing last week, and we didn't even touch on
We
drones.
did. You're right. Good call.
So, the only thing that I really wanted to say about drones is realtors are supposed to be using licensed drone photographers, which means you need to get your Part 107 license from the FAA. I've got mine, and the offices are literally, they will ask you, are you licensed? And you may have to show them paperwork or not. I actually have never had to show them any paperwork, but I have told them I am licensed, and I did pass that test. Actually, it's coming up to be due again in July that I got to take that. But yeah, if you want to get into droning, you really need to cover yourself and be licensed uh, for that. I use the Phantom Pro 3, so it's an older drone, but it's still very viable and does everything that I need it to do. Um, they have, better drones now, but I'm going to get as much use as I can out of mine before I upgrade it. So that's where I'm at with that. So
Now, when you're using your drone, is that a different price point or is that like an add-on, a different
it's
pricing
an
for the drone?
add-on,
Okay.
and so we have a base price for taking the pictures, and obviously have a price for shooting HDR versus this Flambient, and then if they want to add drone on top of that, it's just an add-on. So everything else is basically an add-on for that. And then another new thing that I wanted to discuss because of what is going on with the coronavirus going around, realtors are no longer allowed to have open houses. So 360 tours are the way that they're trying to have their open houses using Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So I have now just ordered a 360 camera to start offering that as well. So as a photographer, it's good to offer as many different things that you can to your realtor. Otherwise, they'll go somewhere else and find that service, and then they might find, well, they do photography, so I might as well just stay with that person. So it's a good idea to do the things that they want you to do, especially when you get tied into several realtors. You can be their one-stop shop. I know some people don't want to get into doing drones, and I was one of those people, but I eventually succumbed to it and actually it's not that difficult to do. It's just you need to go through the procedures to get licensed.
Yeah, and if you're really into doing street photography, and not I said street photography because I read it over here, into doing the real estate, and you want to get into 360, I've got a friend of mine that lives in Australia that does that. And it's, you know what, to get like Google certified and to be able to create that content, it's a huge market. And now, if you've got downtime, now's a really good time to start looking at that. So, and he does it all without a 360 camera, by the way. He shoots it all and knits it all together. So I'll.
He does it. He does it with his regular camera and just take the
Uh-huh.
shot around and piecing them all together. Yeah, you can
Yep.
do it that way too.
Yep. I'll throw his website in the chat just so you can kind of go check it out. But I can always get him on here and we can talk about how he does it as well. He's extremely knowledgeable
Right.
on the whole
Yeah,
business.
that's another way to do it. There's also the Matterport, but that gets a little bit expensive. So I think what most realtors at most levels of real estate, at least the stuff that I'm photographing, I don't really require that super high res, high quality stuff, not for the stuff that I'm photographing. So I just decided to buy the Ricoh Theta 5 or something like that. So you just stop. Oh, there we go. Is everybody else on, or is it just Troy?
Dave,
Yes.
this is Bruce. I have the instant. I had one that you're talking about a little bit earlier on version, but I've got an instant 360.
Oh, okay.
Phenomenal camera.
Yeah. There's a few of them out there. In fact, the one that I was looking at getting, which was the Ricoh Z1 or Theta Z1, it's basically $1,000 camera. They're all out of stock now, and just a week ago they weren't. They had them in stock. So people are buying these things up that are shooting real estate because they know that we're in a situation to where these realtors having to use this product now to produce their open houses. So, are you back, Troy?
I'm back. Yeah, my cat wanted out.
Oh, your cat. Yeah, it's just like you blipped out. The other thing about the insurance now, it's a good idea to get yourself covered with insurance in case you happen to break something in the house. So we didn't discuss that last week, and I thought it would be a good thing to bring up this time around. And I'm only paying $41 a month. That covers $25,000 of equipment and my $2 million worth of insurance in case there's bodily harm or anything like that. So it's
And that's just a good idea for any photographer that's going anywhere and photographing anything. Somebody trips over your bag or whatever, you should always have that. And I work in a lot of facilities in the wedding industry that won't even allow us to photograph on the property unless I include them, and you have to name them in the insurance. You just call your insurance company and say, hey, we're gonna go shoot over here. So.
Well, I make it a point to tell realtors that I am insured so that they know that I am, if anything happens, they don't have to worry about, me messing anything up. And then they like that. They absolutely love that. So to know that, they're hiring somebody who is a professional and is totally covered in that aspect is a good thing.
So if somebody wants to get drone licensed, what's the process for doing that? Because
a lot of studying.
But I mean, like, where do you go? I have a drone. It's a toy. I fly it in the desert, so I'm not going to get licensed. But like, let's say Lois says, well, you know what? I got a drone. I want to go do that. Where do you go? How do you do that? Where do you start? I don't even know.
My process was, first of all, you have to figure out how you learn because there's a lot of reading. You got to download. There's all kinds of information out on the web that you can download and take practice tests and all of that. For the iPad, I downloaded something called and paid $20 for it, something called the Drone Buddy. And it literally has about 300 out of the 900 questions that they ask on the test. So the test itself is only 60 questions, but it could be pulling from anywhere of these 900 questions that they have. But you got to be familiar with reading aeronautical maps and weather and all of that. And so the way I taught myself, because reading that kind of information is very boring, and I fall asleep. So I basically just started doing the quizzes. And when I missed a question, I looked up the information and I just did the quizzes over and over and over until I was scoring above 90%. uh, for for all the quizzes that I was taking, and then I decided to go ahead and book my appointment. And you can do that down at the Redlands. Most of these airports are capable, but if you go onto the FAA site, they'll tell you where you can go and book your appointment. So I did mine down at the Redlands Airport.
Yeah, I
And
just put a link in the chat. I just looked it up. It's the FAA site, so there's a
yeah,
lot of information in
and it's
there.
$150 to take that test, and it's
Uh-huh.
60 questions. And I mean, they make you think. And I literally changed, I don't know, probably a third of my answers, but I ended up scoring an 87.
Oh,
So
nice.
what I originally thought, what first came to my mind, then I started thinking. I answered the question, and then I started thinking about it. Go, oh, wait a minute, I think they're talking about this. So it's something like that. So it can be very tricky
And I know
as
that
to what they want.
that drone licensing and stuff is always in flux as the FAA tries to figure out what to do with it. And if we followed suit with other countries, now's the time to get your license and stay connected with your license,
Mhm.
because if you're even thinking about you might go that direction, start now, because if it gets worse and worse and worse, like it is in the European Union or in Europe and Australia and stuff, some of the regulations are insane. I mean, you might as well just
Well,
own a biplane.
Well, exactly, and the FAA is actually going to be could be shaking up this whole industry, even with the plane industry for flying those guys
Right.
and their airplanes, because they're literally going to be requiring, if it goes through, your drone will have to be connected to them all the time, so they know exactly where your drone is at all the time, all time.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're flying a drone, and specifically to the real estate, what type of shots are you looking at getting? Like, do you have anything
Yeah,
you can show us?
I have basically a set of shots that I like to go through. I will shoot the front of the house, almost where I would stand with my camera, but I'm looking getting it up higher in the air, 10, 12, 15 feet in the air, getting kind of a straight on shot. So we have that elevated shot, and then I'll bring the drone up even higher, and then back further. So now I can start to see kind of the lot that we're dealing with. I'll go up in some cases. It all depends on the size of the property. Sometimes you have to get up to 400 feet in the air, but sometimes you don't. Where you're looking straight down on the property, and uh, and then I will fly around the property and get kind of a perspective. So I'm close up. All I'm really seeing is the property um, at different angles all the way around it, and then I'll back the drone out 1,000 feet, and so that I can see that property, and then the mountains behind, and all of the everything that is around that property.
So you're
And
just
I
doing
will,
photos too, right? You're not
yeah.
shooting video. Okay.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do shoot video. It all depends on if the realtor wants a virtual tour that includes a little bit of video.
And that's a
So,
different fee, I assume.
and that's another fee.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Exactly.
great.
So virtual tours, 360 cameras, your normal camera shooting. I mean, all these things are generate money. So you want to be able
Right.
to, offer what you can offer. Even sky swapping is a special fee for me. So
Yeah.
if they want me to spend the extra, 30 minutes to swap the skies out, that I do. Of course, I don't own your software, so I'm I might be buying that.
So just one last drone question. So I'm looking at the image that is actually on the IEPPV page, and it just
Right.
basically, I don't know what house maybe you're looking at, but do you tend to want to shoot an overall of like the space that the house is in? Does that matter to realtors? Do they want to see that, like what the neighborhood looks like?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
they do. Now this one, it's the house in the middle, about 3 inches back. That's the house that I was droning. But this shot here was I wanted to be able to see the mountains in the background. And you probably want to share that. Yeah,
I
there you
just
go.
did.
Good.
I know
Um,
how to do this.
there you go. You're better at it than I am. So yeah, this is the house that I photographed, and
Okay.
so yeah, I flew this drone all the way around this property, but this was one of the shots so that we could see the valley and the mountains back there because they're elevated. They can see that view.
Okay. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So you're using the drone to show what the neighborhood looks like, what the area looks
Correct.
like, and okay.
Correct. And usually I will, and I didn't have it on that one, but because it was a closer shot. But when you start getting like, say, can you bring it back up again?
I don't. Man, what if I don't want to? There we go.
you
There we
guys
go.
look at my cursor, let's just say,
No, they can't see your cursor. They can't see. It's my. I'm sharing.
okay, so
it.
like across the street, you know, these houses that are across that street,
Yeah.
I will start to put like a Google pin on the house that is in question, that I'm actually photographing, so that the person looking at the image knows which house is for sale.
Oh, okay.
And then in some cases, like in lots, I will actually outline the lot so we know what lot we're dealing with. So
that
I'll
makes
just
sense.
use Photoshop to do that.
Can I stop sharing now? Is that okay?
Yes, you can stop sharing.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, let's you know what? Let's move on. Let's move on to, so we got drones. We talked about insurance. Those are very important things. And a part of the thing about flying a drone too and having insurance is just being a responsible professional, so that you know you're one that's setting good examples and not bad examples for people. You know.
exactly.
Asking for forgiveness is never the right way to run your business, because
Yeah, and you're
hurting yourself.
constantly looking out for any planes that might be flying, and listening for any planes that might be flying in the area.
Right.
I was up in the mountains and I had a helicopter. I mean, we were out in the middle of nowhere and there shouldn't have been any planes around, but yet the Forest Service was coming by grabbing water out of something that was within 300
Yep.
yards of me.
And that's why they want to have control over almost all drones, in case that kind of stuff happens. They need to be able to fly safely, so, or at least know where the drones are so they can fly around them.
Yeah. So in that case, I was supposed to drone that house. So I just decided I was going to photograph it first, and then hopefully they would be done with what they were doing, and then I was able to drone. So by the time I finished photographing, I was able to drone the house, and they were gone.
Okay, that's good.
So
So let's talk about file management, as we move into this, because you know you're going to go out, you're going to create all this content as we talked about in the first part of this. So when you get back to the computer, you're going to upload your files. So why don't you go ahead and share your screen,
okay.
and then you can show, you know, what your file management looks like and naming, because that's all part of workflow that makes life a little easier and gets the computer and the hardware out of our way.
Yeah, I'll move these. There we go. Okay, so let me just go into one of my listings here. Let me go to library, go up to the listing. So if we go into this house here, let's just show the unrated. So these are all of the files that I've taken in.
Now, do you just load all of those onto the hard drive into a folder, and then?
Yeah, you know, I just I copy the folder off from the camera, from
the card.
the card. Thank you.
We haven't been doing this long, so they're tough terms.
Exactly, the CF Express card. Well, my mind was like trying to. Anyways, so I just do a drag and drop into a folder. Let me show you my folder. Here's my system. So all of my stuff gets stored on drive E, and that's my other SSD drive basically. And I just have these directories on it, and mainly it's just all for realty. So here's my 2020 year. So I'm working with 2020, and I have February, March. I've already moved January over to my Drobo, so I don't have that on the computer. And technically, after this class is done, I will move February over. I just kept it on here so I would have some information to talk about. So I literally create the months, and this will just continue on till the end of the year, 04. For, you know.
So can you show me like February or March and see, like,
So here's February.
Okay, so it's by job. So you do it by exactly. Year, month, and job. Okay.
Exactly. And so obviously I'm making my on my calendar, I make my realty, like here's something that I've got tomorrow, and here's the address. So I just basically come in here and copy this to do the folder naming. And then I put a year, so it's 2002 for February, and then the day is 06. So the 6th of February in the year of 20, and then the street and the house address goes next. So that's how I make my folders, to keep everything, because I have realtors that will call me up. Well, you know, as long as I know when they photographed it, you know, I can find it. But even if they don't, if they just say, well, it's on Amistad Way. because they can't remember when. I can at least do a search for Amistad Way or whatever. So, or Madison Street, and it'll bring up, as long as I know what year I'm in, then it's easy to find. And even when you go into the directories, so I name my files kind of the same thing. So if I go out to, let me see here, go to Google Drive. And so on Google Drive, I have a realty directory that has all of the stuff that I've ever photographed. And these are all of my JPEG files that get sent to the realtors. So it's the same type of thing. So now I've made my JPEG and I put it into these directories. And they can have access to this at any time. If I click on that, I give them a high-res file, and I give them a file for social media or MLS. Some of the files I were given, like this high-res file, MLS was rejecting some of them recently. So I decided to downsize the file for them so that they wouldn't have that issue. And now inside of here is how I've named the file. Let me change the view on this. So we go to the list view. So now it still has the same year and the street name, and then with the file image number attached after that.
Got it. So you said for MLS, do they have image requirements that you have to comply with, or is that something that...
If you give them too large of a file, they can't deal with that file. So
what size of files do they want?
These are sized at, let me see, I think I've got 1,500 on the long end.
But your agent should know that, right? Like your agent should know what size files?
No, they're lucky if they can even download this stuff sometimes. So I have to go through, I literally have to go through and tell them how to download it off the internet. And that generally happens once or twice, but after that, they figure it out.
Got it.
So, but at least this way, to me, it keeps everything. I'm not giving the same image name on any one thing, and I can always go and find stuff. I literally had somebody come back a year later saying, hey, I need to have that link again because the house went back on the market. Apparently they weren't able to sell it for whatever reason, and now they wanted to upload the images again. So, and that's why I've gone to this system.
So then you import that into Lightroom, and then you begin your sorting and tagging.
Correct. So now we're back into Lightroom. These are all the raw image files. And let me see, is this one that I shot Flambient on this one. So I would generally pick the ones that I use out of these 3 images here. I would flag the one that I want to use. And so I would go through all the outdoor stuff and flag the outdoor pictures that I want to use. In some cases, if it's not windy, I might just go ahead and create the HDR out of it, if it looks like it's going to create a good HDR. But if it was windy and you got lots of trees blowing and all of that, then I generally will just pick the best image out of the.
So okay, so just to clarify on the windy HDR, so you're gonna shoot 3 images. If it's too windy to stack them and make an HDR,
I just
don't
pick
go that
the best,
route it's too
the
much
best
work.
exposure that I want. And sometimes I'll actually take all 3 and blend the exposures. I've done that too. It all depends on the image. Right. And what I feel I need to get out of that image.
But you're going to show us some of that, aren't you?
I'm going to try. So I don't name, these are all, you can notice at the top, these are the files that come right out of the camera. So I don't name anything until I'm done doing all of my processing. So each image that gets processed then gets flagged. So these are all of the flagged images, the processed images that I sent over to the realtor. So when I have all of these the way I want them, then I just take the whole entire, I will try and name them, because sometimes I don't shoot in the order in which they want them to appear on MLS because of the situation or the way things are going. Sometimes I start in the backyard and work my way through, but I normally try to start with the front of the house and then work my way through the house and then to the backyard, so that the images are somewhat in an order.
Got it.
But when I go ahead and name the files, and of course I'm just going to show you because these are already named, I would highlight the whole thing, bring up the custom settings, starting on image number 1, and edit, and drop in here. See if that thing's still copied. Yeah. So I end up dropping in the street name, and it's going to put a sequence number after that.
Nice.
And before that, I put the year. So what is today's date? So it's 20, the month is 04, and it's 01. So then that's how my file structure would look to name all of the images in that directory. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. So now let's just say we just named all the images. And here's all of the images that we just now renamed. So now I just hit export. And inside of the export module, I have my Realty high-res and Realty MLS size images. So I just check on both of those and then hit export. And it automatically exports it to the same image directory that the images are. It just creates these new folders. And then I just drag and drop those folders onto my cloud. And Troy's on the phone, so I'll try and keep tracking. So I believe my high-res file is like a file size that's 2,000 pixels on the width at 300 dpi, and my Realty MLS sized file is 1,500 pixels at 100 dpi. Because that seems to work the best for MLS and social media. So that's how I handle that file structure.
That was well done, David, without me.
I looked at the little tiny box and I can see your.
I'm like, I could totally take a phone call for like 2 seconds and you're not going to fall apart. But no, I guess not.
No, Dave went wild there for a second. Does anybody have any questions on how I do this?
On the file organization?
On the filing, yeah, the file management of this thing.
Right, because then you're going to go into processing. Okay. So just so everybody knows, I've muted everybody, and that way we don't have any additional noise. If you want to say something and your video's on, like Loy, you can just wave your hand at me and I'll unmute you. Or after we ask for questions, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and then try to ask the question so we're not talking over everybody. So Jim Zanzibar is asking, how long do you archive your photos?
Okay, so that's a good question. I will keep all of the raw image files for 2 months. The raw image files that created the final images. Okay. After that month is over, I go through and delete all of the image files that created my main file and get them off the hard drive. And then what I do is I pass those raw files that are left, are either 16-bit TIFFs or they're raw files, over to my Drobo. And I'm keeping those for like 2 years. I've got still all of my JPEGs since I've started shooting. So I haven't deleted any of that because I haven't run out of room on Google Drive. I originally started using OneDrive, but I found that some Mac users, some people who are using the Macs, were having a issue downloading those files. So I just switched over to Google Drive and haven't had a problem since.
Oh, good. So that was going to be my other question: is how do you distribute these? So
Google Drive. I'm using Google Drive. I send them a link, and then they go and download the files from there. And hopefully they store them. But like I say, I've got oodles of storage here and oodles of storage online. So I'm not deleting any of my raw files my JPEGs until I absolutely have to.
Right.
But the raw files, I figured if they haven't contacted me within a week or two about, hey, we need to re-edit this one file, which I haven't had any realtor do for me. I'm just keeping the files that I actually, like this set right here that you see the stars on, I will keep all of that on the Drobo. The set that is unrated, all of these, I will throw away because it's just it's images I don't need to keep.
Nobody needs those oranges. Like what were you thinking?
I know, exactly. Sometimes I shoot shots like that just in case I feel like I haven't shot enough. Those are just in case shots.
You're an idiot. A quick business question. So, Are you charging sales tax?
No, because when you do a digital download, you don't
Right.
have to charge sales tax.
Okay. All right. I just, yeah. So basically, if you're not handing a physical product, so if you were to ship a thumb drive or hand off a thumb drive, you got to charge sales tax.
Yeah,
But
I had it
because it's
happen once. They couldn't figure out how to download it, and they wanted a CD, and I said, "I'm going to have to charge a tax." I don't
yeah,
care. I just can't figure this out. It's like, okay, whatever.
yeah. But what you do is you deliver the digital files, and then because now you're friends, you gift them a thumb drive. It just happens to have all the
Exactly.
files. No, don't do that.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. So you don't have to charge sales tax. That's nice. That's
that's
nice
the
on.
gorgeous part of this whole business is you don't have
Yeah.
to charge that sales tax. And
That's
worry
nice
about
on both ends. So okay, so we've uploaded files, we've sorted them. So can you take us through
Yeah.
an edit, like literally call and edit, and go through your process and talk us through this a little bit?
Yeah. Let me move this.
Luis is asking, so Luis, the way that it works is that your contract, you would have to charge tax on the entire contract if there is a physical product delivered.
Correct.
Otherwise, you don't have to charge tax on the
And the
process.
reason for that, as photographers, our labor, they differentiate labor as you either are creating something, and creatives have to pay sales tax.
Right.
Fixers, like you take your car in to be fixed,
Or contractors.
they don't have to charge sales tax. So,
Right.
yeah, so it's a great way to get around having to do that sales tax because you're just giving them digital downloads and there's no transfer anything.
Right. And technically, and I only say this because I was recently audited, even if you were to say, oh, well, that was two separate contracts or two separate invoices, if it pertained to the same job, you should still charge sales tax on the entire contract for the job.
Right.
So just be aware of that.
Right. Okay, so here is, I basically set up some directories here so that we could just play with some images. And this is a flambient, excuse me, or basically where I shot an ambient, which is this first one. I know it's a small on your screen, so let's get this up. So this first shot's an ambient, and then the next two are two flash shots. So you'll notice on this particular flash shot, I am right here. And we don't want that there. So we will shoot a second shot where I'm not there.
Let me interrupt you for a sec. So let's go back to your library, and we've just uploaded all the photos.
Okay.
And do you have a folder that has that, or that has the discards in it? Well, because
all of these are, yeah.
Okay, because what I'd like to know is, like, when you go through these, how is it that you choose, oh, these are the three I'm going to work on, or this is the one I'm going to work on? What is your criteria? And then how do you do it? You're using stars or colors?
No, you know what? Well, I will show you that, because when you go ahead, okay, so you can see, let me make this bigger. When you apply a correction to an image, you get this little thing that says this photo, or it has some adjustments to it. So that's how I know I've used that image, so that when I pull them all into Photoshop. So you'll notice I did not use this image.
But how did you decide to use that one image, though?
Okay, so my first flash shot may not be the correct exposure, and so I will take the same one. So you'll notice this one's darker than this one. So I didn't pump out enough light on that first one. Sometimes it's the third one. That is my first flash shot that I actually use.
Got it. So you're just literally
I'm shooting in manual on the flash, so
Right.
I'm just plugging in half power, quarter power, whatever I think I need. And if it happens to be a little bit too light or too dark, I make an adjustment and shoot another one. So it's not that this was a bad exposure. It's just when I was on scene, this was my ambient shot, and I shot a flash shot, and that came out a little bit too dark. So then I went on and made a correction and did that. So that's how I picked that out.
Got it.
I only need this one shot. Now, you'll notice that there's a shadow back here, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me make it larger. Can you see the shadow from the fan?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one here, I've got everybody in front of me. I have now moved and cast that shadow somewhere else, so we don't have that. So I will use this image just to get rid of that shadow from the fan. It's not as prominent in this as it has been in some images, but yeah, you can really have a prominent shadow from that fan. So that's why you take 2 shots to move that shadow somewhere else in the room.
And that's why you've starred that one, because that one's your keeper.
Correct. So this is actually the one that I sent. So anyways, the ones that I use. So here's the shot that I moved the shadow over to this side of the wall to get it away. So I literally walked over here to my left, and bounced the flash off over here just to clean up this area over there.
Okay, cool.
Okay, same with here, and you'll find ceiling fans everywhere in houses. So you literally, in order to deal with them, you have to shoot from 2 different perspectives. So here is, on this particular one, here's the shot. Now in this case, it's okay. I'm sorry, that's the ambient. So let's go to the first shot. So yeah, you can see some of this shadowing back here. So then I stepped off to the side, and you'll see my tummy, and moved that shadow somewhere else in the room so I could bring that back in. So it looks natural. I'm trying to match as best as possible the ambient lighting in the room, so that when I start blending everything in that image, that shadow isn't going to be a problem.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So let's go on to editing an image. And Dave, remember that conversation we had about the hand slapping the desk?
Sorry. You need to time.
I need a remote buzzer.
I know. I'm horrible. Yeah, hit a ding dong thing or something.
You're flamboyant.
Okay.
All right. So let's edit an image.
So here's a free image where I shot the ambient, and then I shot my first flash shot. But when I shot that, I noticed, oh man, I'm in that frame there. So I had to shoot from another perspective to get myself out of that frame. So the way I would edit these is I would start off, and I've got an action. Now I'm going to move everybody again so I can go to the development module. I've got an action, or a preset actually, that I just call my basic flambient, and I showed you guys this the last time. So I highlight all 3 images because I want to apply this correction to all of them to start with. It does not apply any transformation to the image, but it does do lens correction. And when you do that, it doesn't change where the pixels will go as far as your perspective. But if I actually asked it to transform the image, they may not all transform the same. Right. So you would literally have to do this to one image, copy those settings, and then apply those settings to the next so it does it exactly the same. Well, I decided that seemed to be a little bit too redundant, and I didn't feel like doing that. So I work with the images in their natural states like this, and just apply this basic correction that applies the lens correction and all of that stuff. And then I don't do my transformations or my verticals until the very end. So
right. So this is just to get the images zeroed out in maybe color balance, exposure. Okay, right.
And it doesn't move any pixels at all.
Right, because you're going to stack these, right?
So yeah, these are totally stackable.
And you're going to okay.
So now I will go back and work with the ambient and get that one dialed in color-wise. So I'll just come out with my color picker and pick something white in the room until I'm happy with what I feel that is supposed to look like. And also with my ambient, because they can look a little bit muddy or whatever, I like to increase the contrast of the ambient to make it more snappy. I just think it blends better. And makes it a much nicer image when you're blending it into the flash image. So I will increase this as much just by eye and how I feel. Now coming over to the flash images, I will go ahead and grab both of them because I want them to both have the same correction and color correct those. Okay. So now we've got it to a point to where I will take this into Lightroom. Now, yeah, you can even, like if this was really bright over here on the left-hand side, I might come over here and just apply an adjustment filter to, whatever. And you can do that if you want to. But So now I'll go ahead and bring all three of these things into Photoshop as layers. And so right now it's loading them into Photoshop as layers. And the faster the computer you have, the better for this, because it will take a while if you don't, especially with dealing with 24 megapixel images, which is what I shoot.
So in Lightroom, you touch each image, even the ones that go into the composite, because the more work you do there, the more tuning you do, the less you're going to have once you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I will burn and dodge inside of Lightroom to correct certain areas before I even get it into here. If I don't feel I can do it all in here, you know, whatever's the easiest way to do is the path.
Right.
You know, so these loaded into Lightroom the way you shoot them. So you've got your ambient, which was my first shot. First, I'm going to turn that layer off. And that was my first flash shot. I'm going to turn that layer off. And this is my correction flash shot. Okay. So inside of Photoshop, the first thing I will do is obviously turn off my ambient, because I'm going to mix that in last, and I've got to deal with these flash pictures. So I will reverse them so that the image on top, in other words, this bottom image is my base flash shot. That was the first shot right from camera. Okay.
Why is that your base image?
Just because it's the one close. I didn't step off of camera to flash from a deer. It's just right from camera perspective.
So was
I
your
just
base
call
image
that my base flash.
So was your base image on?
And I'm starting there with my
flash?
exposure also. So this is the first image I look at to see if my exposure was correct or not. So, and from there I will correct it. So it may take 2 flashes, and then I will step off camera to. And the reason why this is my base image is because I'm standing by the camera. I can view the live view right off the bat, rather than walk away from the camera, take a shot, and then come back to the camera to look at the shot. Well, so I'm basically looking at how my flash power is.
So what I'm trying to understand is you've got 3 images, and you said, well, that's my base image. Is that because it has more detail, it has better exposure? You want to blend the other 2 to that one?
I'm going to blend everything into this one.
Got it. Okay.
So that's basically the base.
Got it.
So to blend, so I will start with the next flash image up. So I'm going to turn that layer on and go to that layer. Okay. We are going to now hide that layer by clicking on down here at the bottom. You've got your add layer mask. I will hold down the Alt key and left click that, and that will add a black mask.
Option key on the Macs.
Is that an option key?
Yep, it's Alt or Option. Yep.
Okay. So now it's holding back that whole entire image. So now I'm just going to paint through the parts that I want to use out of that image. So I will come in here with my brush. And by the way, a couple of B for brush, and you probably all know that. And make sure you're on your white over here. If you're not, you can hit X, and it'll reverse your colors.
Yeah, if you hit D, it'll reset those colors to the default. So B and D, brush, D for default colors, and then X switches the colors back and forth from black and white.
Exactly. And the other thing that a lot of people don't know is, rather than hitting your bracket key to make your brush bigger and smaller, you can hold down the right mouse key. While you're holding down, let's get that off of that, and I don't know what it's on the Mac, so you'll have to tell me. So I'm holding down the Control key and the Alt key. Click the right mouse button, and you will get that. Yep. Keep holding it down, and now I can adjust the size of the brush I want and the hardness of the brush I want. It's a really good tool when you're constantly resizing the brush.
Yes, sir. That always drove me nuts.
Did it really? Oh man,
I could never get it right.
Oh, I mean, it drives me nuts when I'm, doing hardness and all of that. But mainly, we're dealing with a brush like that, anyways.
Right.
So I'm just going to now come over here, and up at the top, you'll see my flow is actually at 100%, and I don't want that. So I'm going to hit Shift 1, and that'll bring it down to 10%. And I can come in here now and start getting myself out of that image.
And we're doing opacity at 100% and flow at 10 because the idea is that the more that you paint, you keep increasing the intensity of the brush up to 100%.
Correct.
If you did it the other way around, if you reduced your opacity, it would paint up to that percentage and then stop, and you would have to unclick and then re-click, and then you don't get smooth painting or blending. Your brush doesn't blend very well, so that's why this technique is really good.
Yeah, and so we also have a shadow here that's being caused from that first flash from the ceiling fan. So I'm going to just delete that shadow too. So anywhere that you think you need to fix the image,
so you deleted
now I've basically gotten rid of all of the stuff that I need to get rid of out of that image. Now I can bring in the ambient.
So you didn't really delete the shadow. What you did is you allowed the bottom image that has no shadow to show through.
Correct.
In a sense, making the shadow go away. But.
Correct, because I had my on-camera flash, that caused that shadow, and then I shot another flash angle, so that it casted the shadow of the fan over to this side. So it opened that up, and now I can get rid of that off of that wall.
You have to remember that it's like, if for somebody that doesn't speak layers, that stuff can just hurt your head.
Believe me, I know, because I learned layers through real estate.
Yeah, layers are amazing. So for those that don't know, let's say you took a piece of paper and you stack the paper on top of each other, and on the very top paper, you're like, oh, I want to see the object that's on paper number 2. You got to make a hole in that top paper, and that's really what that mask is. Play with them. The more you play with them, the more powerful layers and layer masks become, and you realize that they're power. So I just want a little clarity for those that are like layer newbies.
Mm-hmm.
So because you work fast at this, and I know I do too, and you can gloss right over that. So all right, so continue with beautifying your image.
That's why you're here, Troy. So let's just say, okay, now I'm happy with where the flash images stand. I'm now going to blend my ambient into that so it doesn't look like it was taken with flash, at least to a good degree. So I'm going to turn my ambient in, and now you can see the detail. I am not capturing out those windows, and the flash allows me to capture that detail out that window. So by turning on that layer and adding another mask, okay, and I'm going to turn that to luminosity. And the reason why I'm turning it to luminosity is luminosity only deals with darkness and brightness of values. It's not dealing with color. So I could this image literally could be green, maxed out, and it wouldn't matter because luminosity is only dealing with light and dark values.
So Dave, you turned on luminosity while you had the mask selected.
Correct.
Did you? Okay,
that's probably habit. I think some people, you can do it. It doesn't matter which one you have selected.
Okay, I just want to be clear because that's.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's habit. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to paint through the luminosity or the ambience of this image. So we can just put this on a nice white brush. We're on 10% flow, and we can start bringing in. And you'll see areas going dark and areas going. Now I will stay away from that window because I want as much of that as possible. And if I bring in something that I didn't like, I will just change it to black and blend it back in the other way. But
just for giggles, change luminosity back to normal, just so we can see what that difference does. How luminosity would actually blend if it was accidentally left on normal.
In this one, you probably won't notice a whole lot, but I will.
That's what I was wondering.
So you probably won't see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the luminosities are pretty close. Yeah.
They're pretty close. And that's why that is why I correct them inside of Lightroom, so that at least my colors are fairly close. Because the problem with luminosity, and it's not showing in this image, but when you got a really harsh shadow being cast from something, that shadow will literally go orange. And there's 2 ways to fix that. One is you can have another layer like we did last week, where I had not just the luminosity layer, but I had another ambient layer of normal where I will paint in the normal values of that, and it'll overwrite that orange shadow.
Got it. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's
Cool.
just it's an inherent thing when you're using luminosity.
Right.
I don't know why, but yeah, you can run into some issues. So I'll turn that back
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want you to continue with it wrong.
now. So
'Cause
yeah,
sometimes
you can just paint this in until you're content with what you're seeing. And I'll even do it on some of this stuff. I mean, that glass is a little bit, and things will go darker and lighter, and things will start to look like they pop. And it's like, wow, that looks a whole lot better. So do we have any questions? Did I hear somebody with a question?
Do you have any questions?
No questions.
You can also text me and we can unmute you and call on you, or you can just type the question to me too if you want to do that.
So so some other layers, and this is where my action came into be. So let's just say I didn't want this to show like it was that color up there. You can always add another layer to that. I can change that to a color layer, and with this on either black or white or whatever, let's just say these were just too strong and I wanted to paint them down a little bit, I can do that.
Okay.
Kind
So
of a thing.
what are you doing? So you created another layer, and
So if I turn
then-
this layer off, look at the light bulbs on that. You'll see they kind of orange up a little bit more versus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you made a
Okay.
layer, and then you just
So
you
I just
brushed
used the color layer
black over it.
right to knock that down a little bit. So if there are areas that you need to knock down and actually turn back to white or whatever, you can do it. You can do it with a color layer. You can even pick a color and then paint over. Like if a shadow went really orange, you could pick like. You can probably see some of the orange down below in here. Okay, let's so can you see this versus what's happening over here?
Right.
You know, and even back in here. So another way to deal with that is with the color layer. You can literally just come over here, and I always put it on white because it's just that's what I do. Grab a color that's your reference color that you want to use, and start painting that orange effect out of there.
Because you're essentially painting white into that.
Correct. Or the color of that wall. So even if that wall was, and I see this is a black chair, so I really don't have to worry about the black chair.
Right.
You know,
Right.
because if I went over this, you will definitely see that.
You desaturate it. Yeah.
You see, yeah, exactly. Oops, I went out of my Photoshop. So yeah, so that's how you can actually fix those areas, or you can use the normal layer of ambient mask to paint that back in naturally.
Now on that table, there's like some little chips on the edge and things like that. Do you fix those, or do you not worry about those?
If it's that small, I generally don't worry about that. Because you have to understand this is going to be viewed on a phone anyways. But what I will fix, let's just say that there was a hook in a wall right over here. I will fix things that are easily fixed that are not structural. So in other words, if there was a crack in a concrete or something like that foundationally, I will not fix it.
Right.
But if there's like a nail hole in the wall here that's easily fixed, I will fix it in here to make it look nice. Because a lot of times they'll say, oh, we're going to fix all of that. Okay, well then I will just Photoshop it out.
Perfect.
Okay.
So now once you've done all the work on this, I'm assuming that you're going to save that back in. Do you save that back into your Lightroom library, or do you save it out to a finished?
I basically will flatten the image and hit save, and it goes back into Lightroom. Before I do that, a couple of other things that we discussed last week, you can always add these, you can do your brightness and contrast inside of here. So before I would actually, no, I would do it right now. So I could add some more contrast if I felt it needed the contrast. I could go in here and add some more, where's that hue saturation, and add a little bit more saturation to my colors. And let's just say I liked that for whatever reason.
No, it's nice. So Richard's basically, I think what Richard's asking is, so you would leave like an outlet like behind the table and stuff. If you can see an outlet, because an outlet is actually physically in that spot, you leave those there.
I do. There has been an occasion that there's no faceplate on some of these outlets, and I literally had to clone a faceplate somewhere and put it on the wall so it looked normal.
Oh my
Because,
gosh.
it's just one of those things that's like, well, we're going to do that, but, if it's really prevalent, and the image would look so much better without, with a faceplate on it, then I will do
Right.
it.
And you're doing a service for your client that they
Right,
may not have otherwise recognized. So that's
right.
nice. So
I probably go way overboard, but that's just me. I just want to give them and to me, it's a learning thing. At this
well,
point, I still think I'm learning how to do this.
and the better we get at Photoshop or any tool, the easier those kind of things become. Where maybe in the
Correct.
beginning you're like, I'm not taking that out. That's going to be a nightmare. But later you're like, yeah, what the heck? I just circle that, delete it, content word fill, I move on, and I'm done. So
Right.
yeah, that's
Right.
where the practice comes in.
Mhm.
So when it comes to perspective control and do you do that in Photoshop here? Or
I
do you,
generally do it all in Photoshop. So if it's going to move on to now my next thing, the perspective and then cropping, then from here, I will just go ahead and flatten the image, go ahead and filter open camera raw.
mm-hmm,
And I'm looking for camera raw. It's
right
right
there.
there.
Yeah.
Thank you. And come into my perspective and try and grab the strongest verticals you can.
Now, would you correct this image, or is this image good enough?
I correct everything.
Okay, okay.
That's just me.
No, it's good.
I'm OCD, I think. So once you draw this line down, if you hover the mouse over the area, you hit the Alt key. I don't know what it'd be on the Mac. You actually find out where that line is. Left mouse button, hold, and I can now drag that to where it needs to go.
So it's very accurate, yeah.
Yeah, it's very accurate, and that one's right where it needed to be. And then I'll just come over to this side and do the same thing. Okay, now if I had shot straight into this room where this wall right here should have been like perfect, I will correct those also. But I'm not going to do it on this one. Okay, and then I would hit OK, and then grab the crop tool, move that out of the way, crop however I wanted to crop. And I always keep it in the same 2:3 aspect ratio.
Okay.
Because that's what MLS likes to see.
Got it.
And they can do anything from that. So I try to keep most of my stuff in that 2:3 ratio. And then from here I'll hit save, so Control S to save. And now I got to move that bar. There we go. Let's move that one over there.
So I notice that the ceiling is slightly warmer than the rest of the walls.
Yes.
Do you worry about that? Do you correct that?
You know what? In some cases I do. It all depends on the image. Okay. I do believe that this ceiling was kind of off-white. I think it was more cream color than white. Okay. But yeah, you can have mixtures of colors that come in here that, I will spend a little bit more time trying to dial that in a little bit better.
Okay. Got it.
So yeah.
Okay. And that might not show up as obvious if you're editing a job and we're not having you questioned every few seconds, right? You may have done that in the raw. You get your white balance closer so they blend better.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that's where the workflow is.
And and there's situations, I'll do it on this one, where you can actually grab your, what is that tool? That is the
banana tool.
The Polygon Lasso tool, whatever. So, start this again. So you can actually come in here and I will do this on some ceilings where I will just section this out and come in and add a color layer. Back to my brush. Hit the D key to put that back. Doesn't matter whether it's on black or white. And now I can come in here and start painting out some of that to make it, match.
Got it.
If that's what it was. And then I would come back here. If I ruined up that gold, I would paint black over that to bring that back again. Got it. But that's another technique that you could use to fixed ceilings that go way too warm, because this has got a very warm floor. When you hit the flash on the ceiling, it's bouncing off the floor and literally warming up the wall. So it's a mental note when you walk into a place: where are my whites in the room, and is this a white paint or is it an off-white paint? So I'm constantly making mental notes.
Got it. So now that we've done our perspective control
and our cropping,
this image is basically done, right?
It's basically done. So then you're saving the image. Come on, Control Save. Oh, whatever.
No, we're watching you. It never works when you're doing live demos.
Oh, I know. It's supposed to just
collapses.
Oh, okay. So I didn't realize. Okay, so I need to flatten this stupid image. So now the save will work. Control S to save, and then close it out, and then we're back into here, and here's our image. Now,
a TIFF. Okay, I was going to ask you. So you're saving these.
I'm saving as TIFF, but I just read an article that it's probably better to save as a PSD. It's a little smaller file size, but this is just the way I'm set up. I would then hit the P key to flag that image. That is my image I'm going to send to the realtor.
Oh, great.
Okay, so these other ones. So when I'm done with all of my images, then all I've got to do is hit it on flagged images, highlight them, rename them, and then send them out to their proper file size.
So how long does it take you to edit a house? Like a normal house, like beginning
20 to 25 images, you're probably looking at an hour and a half.
Okay.
So because it's main, okay, for Flambient, it's about an hour and a half. If I shoot HDR, I can probably get that same house done in about 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh wow, which is nice that you transition like that, because now you're going to show us how to do an HDR.
Exactly. HDR. I have a few HDRs. So here's my HDR directory. This is, I think we used this the other night too, but I just pulled it back in again with the other one. So let's go.
Don't panic, David. I'm gonna mute my microphone and my video for a second, but don't panic. You just keep running through that HDR.
I'm gonna run through the HDR while I'm moving everybody's frames around. Okay, so here's the HDR images, and I just pulled over 3 images to work on out of that house that I photographed, and you'll notice I shoot everything, whether it's HDR and flash, I shoot everything at 5,000 degrees Kelvin. So you're seeing the exact color temperature of these light bulbs in these rooms, and but we're going to correct that, and we may have to paint in or neutralize certain areas and stuff like that if we don't like it. But the first thing I do, so let's just say this is a whole house shoot that I did. I will basically highlight all of them. Actually, you don't have to. That's right. You don't have to. You just click on the first one, right click, and bring up your menu, go down to stacking, and then go down to auto stack by capture time. So that's what I do. And I've got it set for a 5-second interval so that it can find these stacks a lot easier. So it came up with 3 stacks, and I'll hit stack. So there are my 3 separate images for this particular house. I will now highlight all 3 of them and hit Control-Shift-H for making the HDR. Now, if you wanted to hit Control-H, it will bring up a menu. And so I'm going to show you that real quick. So if I hit Control-H, it'll bring up the menu, and it'll say, okay, so what settings do you want to use? Here's my settings. I have it on Auto Align, Auto Settings, and Deghost Amount None. If you start dealing with ghost parts of the image, like for outdoor trees that are moving, it's going to take the computer forever to create an HDR. And that's how I first started off doing it. And I was it was taking me 4 hours to process.
So you are the deghosting filter.
I am the deghosting
when you create
filter.
The image. Yeah.
Exactly. Obviously, I know everything on the inside of the house is fine. It's just the outside. So I look at the image and I'm going, and I remember, that's another mental note I'll take, is it windy today? Do I have a lot of breeze blowing trees around? So in that case, I won't use the HDR image. I'll just do it all from one image on the outside of the house.
Nice.
But if I've got a lot of shadowing, really heavy contrasty lighting, and the wind wasn't blowing, then I'll create the HDR out of that, just so I have more to work with. So I'm going to hit cancel on this. So you know my settings now. So that's so the computer can work through that. So now I'm just going to highlight all of them and hit Control-Shift-H, which will now start to automatically go in and merge those images.
Now, Lightroom will do batch HDRs, right?
This is batch right here.
Uh, well,
It's batching these. I highlighted all of them, and I hit Control-Shift-H, and now it's working on all of them.
okay, only because I don't have Lightroom to test this, but I thought I was under the impression that if you had, say, 9 images in there, which are basically 3 scenes, that you could select all 9 and it would know that they're 3 separate. Is that not true?
You know what? That might be true. I just always stacked them. So I just stack them so that I know that that's, you could be correct.
Okay, I just started an internet rumor that probably isn't true, so just ignore all that.
So it's now just finished those 3 HDRs, so now we can go in and start working on them. So on my HDRs, I will put this down into added order, so it separates them from the original files. And so now all I have to do is highlight them and hit my P key to flag. Those are the ones that I want to use. And so I will now come down here and change this to flag. So all I'm seeing are the HDR images that I have to process. Okay?
So cool.
And we're going to go to the development module. So here's the first one. I have some presets that I've created because of the Z camera. It handles things a little bit differently. So I have a basic HDR inside that I've created, and it applies the corrections for the lens and all of that stuff. And then I will come over here and pick something white to bring the color back. And if I'm not happy with that, I will either adjust the color temperature over here to warm it up, because I don't think you want things to look totally cold in a house. We like our houses to look somewhat warm and inviting and all of that. So that's all kind of, I think, a subliminal thing that we do. But if I don't like the way, like this blue, the window's really blue and it's casting a lot of blue light there, I might come in here and take my blue saturation and pull some of that out. And likewise, if I think things are going too yellow, like I said, those cabinets look like that, you know, I would bring back the yellow or the orange or whatever. So you can see my yellow is already down, and that was part of that action.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it. So would you, because these are HDRs that you stacked in Lightroom, and they remain DNGs, which is awesome because they're raw, would you do perspective correction in here?
Always.
Okay,
now,
so because
now this is one that I would do both verticals and horizontals, because I'm basically shooting straight into this room. Right. And right now we look a little bit wonky. So yeah, I will come over here and add my guys.
This is when you do it in Lightroom versus Photoshop, because
right,
you did
correct.
the HDR stack here anyway. Yeah.
So now we're in Lightroom doing this, and I actually now starting to get used to doing Photoshop. I kind of love Photoshop's way of doing it, but you just find your wall to work with. And do my horizontals and come down here to the floor. And if you don't like where it came, you can actually see where that is and see if you're on the same line. Yeah, it looks like I'm on the same line. So now that just corrected us horizontally and vertically. And now if I don't like it, I'm saying, oh man, this would have been the one to use. I'll just drop this down. And you can see that's a little off compared to what was over there. So
yeah, just barely. Yeah.
Just barely, but you know,
and it matters. You know, it seems like a little bit extra work, but I was recently looking for homes, you know, several months ago, and the images were atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
So bad, and that little bit just makes it look that much nicer. And that's what the real estate agent wants, right? They just want their house to look better, so people buy them. Exactly.
So, you know, then we're going into the cropping, and I will look for things like, you know, I don't want things showing over, you know, on the edge of the image, so keep this in its natural thing. Notice we have a lot of ceiling, so I will generally come down from the ceiling and crop it down to where I want there. I keep having to move this screen around. Like the refrigerator, if that refrigerator looked too, because you can get it, since it was really close to the edge, sometimes these refrigerators, depending on your angle, they can look really elongated. So if that looked too elongated, I might come in here and chop some of that off too, and call that the space I want to show.
So just a little update of where we are. We're at roughly an hour. We're going to be at an hour and a half. So in about 15 minutes,
Okay.
let's go ahead and do any more questions. If you guys have questions, this is the perfect time to either throw them in the chat, and then I'll queue them up for David, and we'll have him go back and forth. And then roughly 7:30-ish, we'll do the critique and chat about those kind of things. So unless you had anything specific other than watching you do a couple more HDRs.
Yeah, so I won't, this one is going to work out kind of the same as that one. I brought this one in because you run into rooms where the lighting is literally atrocious. This thing was lit by this pink lamp in the corner. And I mean, it was just atrocious. So I went out and I asked the homeowner, are the ceilings white paint? Because I couldn't even tell in this room what color the paint was anywhere. And they said, yeah, all of the ceilings are white. So, I mean, just to show you the power of how far something can be off, and you come in here and correct it. But before I do that, just a second, I'm getting out of, let me apply my basic correction. It's taking it to there, and come out here and now fix that. You can see that the color of that was, this is really bright pink. Thing, and then now we've got blue light coming through the windows, so we can come over here like we did before. We can neutralize some of that. I did not neutralize this for the final product, but because when they're going to walk into that room, it's gonna look pink. So I just decided to leave some of that in here, but you could go in here and neutralize that all out if you wanted to.
So it looks like a couple bulbs are out on that lamp, and then like a ceiling fan and stuff. Like, would you fix those bulbs if it's easy enough for you to do that?
Sometimes I do if it's easy enough.
Got it.
It's almost a when you ask them, oh, do you have any bulbs? Now they're spending 15 minutes trying to find bulbs. So I've learned really just, either I'm going to deal with it in the computer, or, anytime I ask them, can something be fixed? It's like it turns into a 10 to 15 minute project.
Yeah.
And of course, that's all time spent on the job that, you could be doing processing and going on to your next job. And, I allow only an hour's worth of time because I might have another booking to go through right after that. So it's...
you allow an hour to shoot.
I allow an hour to shoot, correct. And, but after that, it's like you don't want to... then I also have this, right, you can see my corners. Yeah. I've applied a mask that will brighten up my corners because that 14 to 30 lens has a little bit of vignetting in it.
Right. Right.
So anyways, that's the basic things.
So now when we go outside, we really didn't talk about sky swaps, like how you do a sky swap.
Correct. That's next on it. Well, do you want me to process another? I put some more difficult stuff into this.
Yeah,
one.
do one.
So going back, so that's HDR. Going back to Flambient now. Let me see is the living room.
And Flambient, if we had any people that didn't catch the first one, that's the flash and ambient light mix where he's...
Kitchen. Let's do this one.
Okay.
Okay, this is a crazy image where I've done 4 flashes and then 1 ambient. Okay, so you can all see that. So I'm going to start off with my basic correction, which is to come over here for my preset. Oh, I'm going to go into development module first. So I'm going to do my basic correction for that, and then I'm going to come over here and color correct this. And I might pick on certain whites throughout the room just to see which white I like the best. Sure. And then I will come over here and grab and start with that same area to get the color corrected. Back in, actually on all of these, I'm just going to apply this radial filter right off the bat, get that over with. On the ambient, I'm going to increase my contrast a little bit more. Okay. Now these two flash shots are going to be somewhat close. They'll be pretty close color-wise, but when you start getting further into a room and it might bounce different colors of light, because wall colors might be different, you may have to correct those. Might be a different color temperature back there as opposed to in the foreground of the room. So the only thing,
David, when you go into a house or you have a new client, Patricia's asking this, do you provide them, with a set of checklists or instructions on how to prepare the house?
On my website, I do. I direct them to my website, which there is. And if anybody wants to go and download it, you're more than welcome to. Just go to Swanson Photo, which is SWANSONFOTO.com. And if you just go to the Realty tab and scroll down, you'll see a PDF that you can download that tells them how to go through each room and what to do.
Perfect.
Okay. They don't always do that because we're more training realtors than anything. So, I always direct them to that, and sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't even look at it, and they just pass it on to their clients, and their clients will go through it. So yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so now I have all of these images corrected. You can see I have my ambient. I have my first flash shot. Okay, so here's a thing where it looks a lot brighter on the left-hand side. So I might do a thing to kind of even this out, or I'm going to just darken that down a little bit into that corner. Okay, before I bring them over. And over here, this one's fine. These back ones, I brightened up a little bit so I can get a little bit more brightness back there. I shot on this side of the room for this side of the room. And I shot on this side of the room for the opposite side of the room.
I like how you pop around in the images.
I know. I just pop
and
around
you're just kind of random guy. Like,
exactly.
Where's Waldo?
We're now going to load these into Photoshop as layers. This was probably one of the hardest concepts for me to figure out, since I am just using one flash. I don't set up multiple flashes. A lot of them will set up a flash by the camera and then go into the room and flash down there, so two flashes are going off all the time. I don't do that. I do everything with one flash, and I'm basically painting the rooms with light, and then I'll show you how we overcome myself back there and then bringing that into the image.
So in a room like this, there's obviously a lot of place for shadows to hide, and so like the benches and stuff. So when you're lighting this, are you conscious of, oh, I might need to bounce some light that softens the shadows underneath the benches or the counters?
No, because that's what the ambient's for.
Got it. Okay.
So this is the ambient, and that's the nice soft look, and that's why the ambient is so important, because you are getting softer shadows unless you got a really harsh light hitting it,
like sunlight coming in or something.
Yeah, or something like that. But your ambient pretty much will takes care of a lot of that harshness that you're seeing, like you're seeing in this shot right here.
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah. And that's why we shoot an ambient, so that we can pull that back in again. So the order of these images, you've got the ambient, and then you've got my first flash shot. Just like before, I'm going to move this down to the bottom, and then I'm going to subsequently reorganize this whole directory. Turn off my ambient, and now I'm going to turn off this and turn off this, because those are sectioned by themselves, and I'm going to blend this image into this one here and kind of equalize them out. Okay.
Got it.
So I will just go ahead and add my black mask, and you'll notice I have this over here.
Dave, I think it's easier to shoot a wedding.
Yeah. It might be,
It's a lot of freaking steps, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's taken me a while to figure this
I
out.
can tell. I mean, I fully understand everything you're doing, but I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
what do I put? Yeah,
there's
blending
a
what layer to
and
what?
well, and here's the other side of the ticket. You don't start learning where reflections are happening until you start doing this, and then you start realizing, oh, I'm in that window over there. I need to, move myself or whatever. So, yeah, it becomes a nightmare until you get down the road 100 houses. Then you're starting to see everything. But yeah, you
Yeah.
can see how dark this room is back there, and that's why these other two shots were taken. I can turn off this mask to see if there's anything else I really want to do in this room, and I kind of like the cabinetry back there, so I'll probably just lighten up this cabinetry a little bit. Okay, and then that will be that. So when I'm happy with the way two images are blended, I will just go ahead and flatten that by hitting, or bring them back together, because this whole thing is just a progression. Now I'm going to work on these two images. Okay, so I'm going to add a black mask to this, which basically takes me out of that side over there. So now I can come over to the other side and remove myself from this side. Okay. Okay, now I'm going
Bruce
to.
asks, what's going on to the area to the left of the fridge? And I'm not, Bruce, I'm not sure. You can turn your mic on and express that a little better if you like. I don't know, maybe because it just went dark.
No, it looks like the baseboard goes behind the fridge. It looks like there's a wall there and a fake fridge front in front of it.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, because they're probably the cabinets stick out
Yeah,
because we don't actually see the wall.
exactly.
It
You're
looks
right.
it looks flat.
That
Okay.
is kind of crazy. I hadn't noticed that. Yeah, you're right,
The
Bruce.
cardboard fridge. He takes that with him everywhere.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so and now I've just blended those two images together. I'm going to turn them into one layer. So I'm going to hit my Control E. And now I'm going to take, this is where the magic happens. I'm going to take and turn that layer into screen mode. Okay, so that just brightens everything up. I may not want that much. And so I'm basically looking in the living room area. So I want to adjust how much of that I want to actually show. Okay, so I'm just bringing my fill down on that. Now the other thing you need to do, because it really made this too bright, and it made these lights too bright, and out this window too bright. So now I'm going to add another mask to it, and this time it's going to be a white mask, and I'm going to paint black everywhere, and I'm doing this quickly to bring back the detail that I want in those other areas.
Which is in the image below that layer.
Correct.
Yeah, you're just letting that lower layer come through.
Right. And so now I've brought this, and what's cool is, it's like turning a light on and off. So I think it's kind of cool. So that is the screen mode that'll do that. And that's so that we can see how these rooms flow and make it look natural.
Yep.
And we haven't even blended in the natural lighting yet. So at this point, let's just say I like the way this looks. I will now combine that and get down to my two layers.
What was the shortcut key to combine the two
Control
layers?
E. Control E.
Control, okay.
Okay, that just combined that to my base flash. And so now I've got my flashed image and I've got my ambient. And now I'm going to work on it like I just did before. So I'm going to add that layer. I'm going to turn it into luminosity. And I will start adding, come on. Start painting some of the, I'm on I need to go there. Okay. I like kind of using one. Now, you notice that this floor brightened up over here. I really don't like it going that bright, so I'm going to repaint that back. So I'm keeping the detail in that floor. And you can go around and just click and, bring stuff in so it looks, as natural as possible. I also find that doing it this method you'll have less issues with that orange stuff, with the orange shadows, things going, tending to go orange, because it's got something good to work with.
Right.
It's when you don't have that, then you end up having those orange heavy shadows. So, any questions on this?
Bravo. All right. You've got those two images. You want to bring those up and talk about those a little bit?
The ones that
I sent you?
Oh, yeah. Just 1 second. So then to finish this out, do the verticals, do my cropping, blah blah blah. I'm not going to save this. I'm just gonna exit out of here. You all saw what I just did. So that's how.
Ugh, all that work is gone.
It's all gone. Are we not going to get into sky blending?
Oh yeah, you can do sky replacement. I'm sorry. Yeah, do that.
I like the way you do it today. I mean, your program's a whole lot better, but let's get rid of that. For my sky swaps, I use a program called PPA Actions. Let me go to my library and pull up the house.
The other application Swanson's talking about is Luminar 4. It does sky swaps pretty damn good.
Really good. So I'm impressed with that. But here's a house I had to photograph, and it was raining outside. So I'm actually in the rain. You can actually see it raining. So awesome. Sometimes it doesn't matter. You just have to get them the image, because they're pushed up against a deadline to get it onto MLS. And so I'm out there with an umbrella taking pictures of this house in the rain, and this is what I wound up with. So to make it look better, I did a sky swap on this particular house and kind of made it look more dusk, twilighty, sunsetty type thing, by adding that sky behind it. But to do that process, at least for me, I think Troy's is much better. I have another preset here. Let me go back into the develop module. So
that's a preset that you purchased.
No, this is one that it's just a basic thing that I add contrast, add a little color,
okay.
Stuff like that to bring out what I can in the house to start with. So where is it? It's just HDR basic outdoors with correction. So this one is actually throwing in a transformation correction and trying to do those verticals. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but I try and start there. Goes a little bit light, so I'll pull this down. You can also, this is such a gray, gloomy day, try and pull as much color as we can out of it. And I'll even go into the orange to, bring up the bricks and stuff like that. Now, for my action, and I'm just running through this quick because I know we're pressed for time. For my actions, from PPA Actions, it's $70 unless it's on sale, and it's an action for Photoshop. But it does not like blue. So in the sky, it wants everything to be white. So I will basically make a virtual copy of this. So I have the original file. Come on. Why did that?
Because everybody's watching. Okay. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's how. Okay, so there's my virtual copy with all of the correct colors in that house, because we might have blue trim or something like that in there, so that when I come back to the original raw file, I'm going to remove all of the blue I can and make it as bright as I can. So I will use this to paint back any blue in the house or anything that needs to be painted back. And sometimes
after you've dropped in the sky.
Correct. So I will now send these out to Photoshop. So rather than as layers, I'm going to just send them as separate layers, because the action only wants to work with one layer.
Your way is too complicated.
Oh, I know. I have to change the layer. I think I'm going to spend money. So here's the raw file right here, and here's my sky extraction. So you're going to die when you see all the steps involved into this.
Well,
So
yeah, I'm not. I mean, we're not going to get into it, but I mean, there's so many better ways to select a blue sky based on focus or color
right,
or using Luminar. But this is your method, and
this is my
this is how
method.
Swanson does it.
So it's now created these basic layers, and so now it's a two-part thing. So now I'm going to apply and I'm going to go out and pick a sky. So I'm going to go out. This is another thing. If you're going to go out and shoot real estate, it's a good idea for you to go out and photograph different clouds, different times of days, sunsets, whatever, so that you can draw upon your own imagery to replace things. So I'll just use this one for right now. And it's going to come up, bring it into camera raw so that you can make any final adjustments or whatever. And I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to come in. And now all I have to do is place it where I want. It's good to, when you photograph, just mainly just stick to the sky so I can use whatever part of this I want. So let's just say I wanted to use that. I'm going to continue on with the action. And now it's going to create a whole bunch more layers over here on the side for me to work with if I want to work with. Okay. It created this this layer mask that's gradated because, when you look at the horizon, you're going to see a gradation in that blue as it gets further on up. Now you'll notice, like on this column, we've got problems. And so this is the part where you have to go in and erase things or whatever. So you can click on that. Let me see if that's, yeah. And I can go in and pull these out. And the reason why I have this is just in case there were blue areas or whatever that I needed to overlay on top of it. Now you'll notice over here, you do get the original image paint back in overlay if you want to. So I can use that image too to paint back in the areas that I need to paint in. So that's how that works.
Nice and complicated.
It's non-AI. Sorry.
You did that so nobody could follow along. That's what that was all about.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Sorry, everybody.
I have a
EPA
feeling.
actions.
I have a feeling, Swanson, that we're actually going to have a conversation, like a tutorial on just how to do selections and the 6 different ways that you could do that.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of ways that you can select the sky, and I won't go into them now, but
right.
Yeah, that was complicated. So
yeah, no, this is a complicated, but for somebody that didn't know how to do this, I was willing to do anything. So
right.
Now that I see the way yours works, I'm thinking I might switch over to yours because it does definitely make things a lot easier.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm going to end this one. I don't need to save that, right?
No,
we're done.
Nope. And I'll while you're going back, because you're going to go get those, you're going to bring those images up.
Right.
My sky swap story is I did an image that was on the cover of PPC magazine a few years back, and it's a guy standing in front of a building and there's clouds and stuff. Well, I swapped out the clouds, and I'm at WPPI and I'm sitting amongst all these photographers that are a million times better than me, and I'm not there 30 seconds. And one of the women sitting next to me, Renee Robin, who's now my friend, I'm showing her some of my portfolio, and she goes, "Oh, you swapped that sky. That really sucks. The light's wrong. You didn't do that right." And I'm like, there's like all these people around, right? And like she totally nailed me on it. Like the light in the clouds was wrong. It didn't blend well. The reflections didn't exist in the windows anymore.
Right.
So there's a good way and a bad way to do sky replacements, and I have gotten better.
There is, especially in some of the sky replacements. I've got strong backlighting on the sun. A lot of these houses face north, and the sun never shines on them. Yeah. And so it's good to pull over a sky that's got backlighting, so it kind of matches the scene.
Yeah, you got to be aware. Can you make that image bigger? Can you zoom in on it?
I can't.
Well, you can. Bring it in Photoshop.
Oh, that I could. I have to download it, huh?
What would you do if I wasn't here?
I only know what I know. That isn't a whole lot. So, oh, Ben. Okay, just a second. I got to go find my
I even told a
directory.
story so you could do this.
I know. Okay, so let's. Is that better?
Come on, keep going. You can
You
go a
want me
little
to go
bit.
another?
There we go.
That make you happy?
That's better. I know.
Besides being a little pixelated, but that's okay.
I'm going to share images now instead of you. I know it has to happen. So.
Yeah, you share them from now on.
All right. So,
so the first thing that I see is, can we have her talk?
that's up to the maker. If the maker wants to.
Make her want to talk?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Patricia. I assume that you took this with flash.
It was a flamboyant shot.
Okay, a flamboyant shot. So
yes.
It's a nice angle on the kitchen. I do a lot of these. It looks like your verticals are pretty good, and you want to keep them vertical. The cabinetry color almost looks a little orangey, but there again, I've seen a lot of different oranges, so it doesn't matter what I say. You're the one who knows what color that is, and if it is, you can always bring down that orange slider in the hues thing and adjust it so it's a little better. But what I'm seeing here is you've got a flash spot right here on the cabinet, and you've got another one taking place over here. Now, was this just shot with an ambient and then one flash shot, or did you do multiple flashes?
Just one flash shot.
Okay, so the thing is when you're, especially with cabinetry, you literally have to do more than just one, because you will get this every time. And the reason why I do that is I would rather paint that bright spot out, that reflection of the flash, with the proper color of the cabinetry. I know there's other ways that we can deal with that and get that out of there by blending it with the ambient and then going in and creating a color mode layer, picking your orange cabinetry and then going in there and fixing that. And I could actually fix that with your two shots. However, I prefer to then take a second angle so that it takes and moves that reflection somewhere else on the cabinetry, and then you can layer them up and paint your cabinetry back in again, like I was showing you with that one room.
Right.
Yeah, so you understand that now, right?
Yeah, this image I actually did last June, which was one of the first houses I did doing the flamboyant. So
okay.
Still in learning mode.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, it took me a long time to finally figure this, whole thing out for myself. So don't feel bad, because it takes a long time as far as I'm concerned, and I'm still. I've photographed close to 300 houses last year, and most of those were flamboyant, and I am still learning this. So I'm in no means the perfect expert, but at least I started to notice some certain, and every house is different. That's the killer. Everything you go in. I had a bathroom one time. There wasn't a mirror anywhere that I couldn't see myself. So it was, stepping out of the room to photograph the first one with the ambient, and then, having to paint the camera out of the picture, and it was in a lot of different mirrors. So that wasn't fun. The other thing, I like the way the counter is kept very simple. I would tend to probably take that toaster off of there, because I want to look at the toaster and then my eye wants to just follow it out of the picture. So everything I do, I want to keep the eye centralized on the photo. So that would be my only other comment on this picture.
Yeah, this house was actually a vacation rental, so host usually.
Oh, it's an Airbnb. It's an Airbnb.
This one was, yes, yeah.
Yeah. I just recently photographed an Airbnb, and we literally moved a ton of stuff. But yeah, if you're photographing for something like that, then you're trying to show stuff like that. If you're able to show a little bit more of that right-hand side so that we can see the whole toaster, I would like that better.
So David, would it be appropriate to swap like the salt and pepper shaker with the toaster, kind of solve that problem?
If it's for an Airbnb, it's kind of set up. That's kind of a
okay. That's how they want it to be set up.
Yeah,
okay. Got it.
So you're kind of into their guidelines, but yeah, just you're just following normal practices at this point where, yeah, I wouldn't have cropped that toaster off. It's either in the picture or it's out of the picture.
Okay.
Okay.
Patricia, do you have any other questions for Dave?
No, I've learned a lot just by
Cool.
attending this class and seeing how somebody else actually does it.
Awesome. Well, when we're all off of vacation, we're going to do this in person, so which will be great. Then he can move stuff.
Right. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
At Kim's house.
Yeah, Kim's house. And we can all have donuts out of the same box.
Exactly.
Okay, you want to go ahead and do John's image?
You want me to pull the other one down here? Just a second here. I have to keep moving the screen around for all the names that are on my screen. Let's go back over here. Let's go to the inbox. Let's go.
Yeah, if you saw what my desktop looked like, it's scary. But luckily, I do this stuff quite a bit, so I know where everything is.
I know. Okay, so that's downloaded. So let's open that up.
There you go. Good idea bringing it in Photoshop. A little bigger.
First thing, and I'm glad John did this, is he watermarked his image. For MLS, you cannot watermark your images. So if you're shooting for a realtor and they're going to upload it to MLS, you cannot watermark your images. So, but I'm glad you put that on there, John. I know why you put it on there, but if you're dealing with MLS, then yeah, you cannot have that on there. The first thing that I'm noticing, and of course Troy's going to do a sky swap on this.
You want me to do that in Luminar?
Do that again, yeah.
Yeah, you should do it in Luminar. I would definitely, we're losing the right-hand side of this house. I always show the whole house. So a realtor is going to want to see a perspective of the property, of the whole property. And so that's why I will show a straight-on view far back, generally far back, that they can see the whole entire property. We've got over here on the left-hand side, but we are missing on the right. So I would definitely have allowed more room on that side. You're going for a twilight shot. It's awesome. I love the lighting and all of that. You might want to try and pull a little bit more detail out of those shadows and then knock your highlights down just a little bit more. But overall, it's a very nice shot. I love doing this where you're leading your eye into the picture. So, and that's exactly what this path is doing. We've got all these nice things going on. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in this picture. I would just make sure that you have the whole entire house. Unless it's a duplex. I've had to do that. I'll have this be connected. It won't have this third garage, but there'll be a thing here with another garage on this side. So, then I'm cutting that off and just showing the property that's being photographed. Do you have any questions?
I don't. Thanks. The story on this was actually that's my old house.
Okay.
And that's the landscape design that I did, that I worked out, and I had a guy put it in, and he wanted some photos for his portfolio, and so
so this was basically for the landscaping.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
But no, it's cool. I wanted to know because I know there's a lot of excellent real estate photos out there, so I wanted to see what it would need to do, what I would have need to do to have it be a good real estate shot.
Right, because this is a total viable angle to photograph this property. You are at the right angle. I just needed more house over there on the right hand side, because you always have to put yourself into the buyer's position. What do they want to see? And they're going to look at this and going, oh, what's beyond that side of the house? If this was the only shot. So those are things that you just have to watch for. But yeah, now I want Troy to show everybody.
Yeah.
That's
pretty amazing.
But he needs to switch screens.
No, I can take it away from you. That's not a problem.
Take it away.
I took it. So this is Luminar 4, and so basically what it's going to do is just through AI, it is going to see the sky and it's going to replace it. So You just basically come down here to the AI sky replacement. You're going to grab that. You're going to select a sky. I'm going to go to my collection of skies. We'll let that pop up. This is my collection of skies.
Jeez.
So we'll grab something simple like this one right here. Now, I share these with friends of mine. So my rule is that if you want to contribute, I'll share. So this is actually a sky out of Australia that we're going to pop in there. And it's running. So there you go. So there is your sky. Now what you'll notice is that it doesn't only add the sky, but it adds a color to the overall image. So if the sky is warm, it's going to tone the overall image warm as well. And that's it. That's how hard it is to add a sky in Luminar.
That's insane. That is so cool.
The more defined that is that a JPEG already flattened? Maybe I already added that one. The more defined that the sky is, the easier it is for the software to detect it. And
it's doing an incredible job on those trees.
Right. Now you can even do more. Like let's say now they just added this in the latest update. So let's say you want to add some birds. So what it's going to do is it's going to detect the sky and it's going to throw some birds in there.
Wow.
Yeah, you can. I mean, dude, they have like giraffes. I mean, like they've added a bunch of stuff in here that's totally ridiculous. Like if you want to add like a mountain in the background, like it's pretty freaking amazing. I mean, it's actually really pretty good. But the big thing is like if you're just going to add clouds and you can do it subtly, it does a really good job. So
you're working in total RAW.
Yeah, you're working in RAW. Now this is obviously an image that we downloaded to JPEG. So the RAW does work better because it can define the ends. Kimberly says, and a giraffe. Yeah, you can add a giraffe and planets. But basically, you're going to build up your stock of subject matter that you want to add.
We just need them to now add furniture inside the house when I shoot an empty house. That would be great.
Which software is that?
That's called Luminar.
Luminar.
Yeah, and I just put in a promo code called Spicy Jello, all one word. If you go, I'll give you the link too. That'll give you $10 off.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you.
Yeah, SKYLUM. Just so you guys don't have to do the search, I'll do the search for you and throw it in there.
Thank you so much. You're such a sweetheart. I don't know what we do. I'm here to tell you.
Oh my gosh! All right, copy that. There we go. All right, so there's a link in the chat for that. It seems like that's a quite extensive link, but that's your Luminar 4. So, and they're going to constantly be pushing updates, so it's a good piece of software. The other nice thing about Luminar is you can use it as a one-off raw editor, and it's not as powerful as Lightroom. You're not going to want to replace Lightroom with it, but it does do some cool stuff, which I won't get into. It's also got a portrait smoothing mode, and it's got tons and tons and tons of filters for effects. So, and you can use it as a plugin from Luminar. I'm sorry, you can use it as a plugin from Photoshop and Lightroom. It works really good that way. So you don't have to use it as a standalone if you don't want to. So in your workflow, David, you could get to a certain point and say, okay, I want to add a sky. Go into your plugins, grab Luminar, replace the sky, and then bring it back and create that as a layer that you could then layer mask and clean up any goofiness that you don't like, or thin it out, like if you don't like the sky that dramatic.
Right.
Yeah, use it as a plugin. So that's it, man. You did a great job.
Well, thank you.
Not bad.
Everybody did great.
Not bad. Thank you. Before everybody takes off next week on Wednesday, 6 o'clock, we are going to have Karen Nakamura is going to be here, and she's going to talk about her composites for fine art artwork. It's already on IEPPV's website under the calendar. You can go see what some of her work looks like. She raises and grows her own butterflies, which is really cool to see how she does that, especially in this sort of environment. Oh, thank you, Kira. She threw a link in there. Especially in this environment where we're pretty much at home. You can go in the backyard and you can chase flowers and butterflies and do some cool composites. She's going to talk about that. And then don't forget about our Monday happy hour for anybody that wants to hang out. Mondays at 6 o'clock. We're just going to do this, but we're just going to talk crap with each other. So that's pretty much it. We're not really teaching anything. We're just drinking and snacking and talking about movies and places that we want to go when we can go off vacation. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to stop the recording now. Everybody, awesome for being here. Thank you, David. Big round of applause. Insert
you.
sound effects.
It was awesome.
Way to go. Way to go.